And I would like to thank organizer of this event and IWSA and all madams, Vijaya madam and I'm Maitri madam and all the organizers for providing the opportunity of sharing my thoughts. So with this word, I would like to start my presentation. Should I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Only make it full screen.
Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
so, hello.
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Yes, okay. Now, this is my presentation, and I have divided my presentation in two parts since it carries the lots of high resolution photographs, so it would not easy to smoothly run the slides. So that's why I have divided into two. One part in which I will discuss about the generalized idea of biodiversity conservation pertaining to seed biodiversity conservation. Then after in second part, we will be discussing about what work we are doing here pertaining to biodiversity conservation. So before I start, I would like to tell you about this presentation. It is not a kind of presentation. It is a discussion kind of thing. So all are requested to, you can ask any question or we can discuss in between also. So today's topic.
Dr. Parekh, just a minute. We would like the discussions to be at the end of, after all the three speakers, finish their talk.
Okay, thank
My
you.
apologies, but because of the paucity of time, we would prefer that all discussions be at the end of the session. Everybody, please put your questions and discussions in the chat box. Thank you very much, sir.
That would be good. And I'll be having 20 minutes if I'm not wrong. 20 minutes of presentation time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So today's topic on this biodiversity conservation, it is nothing new for this era or this time particularly, because we all are facing the same question of food security, climate change, and in that particular scenario, how to cope up with this situation of food security and nutritional security. So this biodiversity conservation not alone a part of conservation, but it is a holistic approach which includes the seeds, and particularly I'm talking about the seed biodiversity conservation today. And my presentation would be divided into this topic, like why we are so concerned about the seed, what is biodiversity, and what are the historical perspective of seed biodiversity conservation, and what are the global concern about it, and how they are, or people are conserving this biodiversity with the different strategy. And at the end, I'll be sharing my experience with the biodiversity conservation. So the whole mess start with the 250 million year ago, when our planet was only a Pangea, one island, but it is divided into the two. One is Gondwana and Laurasia, and gradually this Gondwana plate goes and fused with the Eurasian plate, and ultimately what happened, it caused the fragmentation of the land, and ultimately the biodiversity fragmentation happened. And that way, in one way it is evolved, but in other way it caused the separation of the plate, and on this sea, which is earlier it was known as Tethys Sea, is converted into Himalayan. And after that, this continent came into existence, and ultimately we have a different biodiversity with us. So and now the question is why we are concerned about the seeds. As we know, in case of human being, our child, or in animal child, which is nourished by the mother itself through the umbilical cord, and after its birth, it is also nourished by the mother itself. But in case of seed, it is not so. It is attached same as a human child is attached to their mother, or mother pod or mother plant. But afterwards, what happened, that there is nobody to care themselves, so they have provided, nature has provided them cotyledons, which is rich in minerals, nutrition, and all the phytoelements which is required to survive their life. So it is as good as their mama gave them the lunch box. So what they carry, and they grow and they survive until they survive themselves. And along with this, they are also carrying some set of genetic element that is known as a chromosome, which decide the traits. So what we are doing, we are more concerned about these cotyledons or endosperm only, because we want to somehow survive, and we are eating that particular tiffin for survival of ourselves. But we have never thought of this chromosomal part, or you can say in other term traits, or the diversity which it carries. Okay, so ultimately we have utilized the portion of that seed which is edible. Other biodiversity of seed we have forget. So ultimately it is evident that you must have aware about the 6,000-year-old seed have been discovered from the Israel and Mazada particularly. This is the place from where it is discovered, and this is the cave of Rome. From that, scientists have identified, collected some seed of barley, which is confirmed that is a 6,000-year-old seeds. So seed is part and parcel of human life, near about 10,000 years, and 6,000 years old seed we have recovered, and this is the evidence that how seeds are very, very important. But what happened during the course of evolution and the domestication, particularly whatever seed we require, we have domesticated in our farm and our land, and the rest of the seeds we have never give any emphasis. And what it leads to, it is reduced down the biodiversity, called as a domestication syndrome. And because of that, we have end up into the few seeds and bread food and diet. But Nikolai Vavelo has identified this problem, and they have explored the whole world for the biodiversity, pertaining to the 101 crop. And what they did, they have explored the whole world, and they have identified the center of origin of species, and they have come up with the 8th center of origin, and they have very well categorized the diversity. And this is the point from where the whole saga of this conservation was started. And this was the time when World War II, this is time just before World War II, and at the time of World War II, when this collection of Vavelo was kept at this museum in Petersburg, and it was under the threat of Stalin, and the whole conspiracy happened. And this is the story you can read from this book of The Murder of Vavelo by Peter Prinsley. It is very interesting story how they paid the cost of conservation. And at the end, when Vavelo was not there, but the starvation was there. So because of World War, there was no food to eat. Even that condition, the fellow of Vavelos, or the friends of Vavelo who was working in the conservation center, they haven't even had the single seed of which is conserved by the Vavelo. So that was the dedication which we have seen as far as the seed diversity or the crop diversity is concerned. And from that seed, after the World War, Russia has planted their agriculture again. And this is the story. But if we see the part of diversity which is present on the earth, it is near about 250,000 plants. From that, 80,000 are edible, 150 are in cultivation, 30 plant having the species about 95% of the total calorie which we are using in food. And among that, there are 4 only species which we have rely upon for our nutritional security. That is the rice, wheat, maize, and potato. See the misery. Here we are failed to conserve the diversity. Ultimately, what we have lost the it's wild type. We have lost the land races. We have lost the unique characters, and we are only rely upon rice, wheat, maize, and potato. How fragile food security we have right now. So that's why what we are facing right now, we are facing that in India we have all developed, but still today India is as equivalent as Angola, Namibia, and Ethiopia, and in terms of hunger. Or the hunger is not only the filling the belly with the starch, but it is also concerned about the nutrition. So we are very far behind, and we have to ensure it with this land races, farmer variety, genetic stock, primitive cultivars, wild or weeded relatives, they all are having the genetic resources which can fulfill all the bowl with the nutrition. And in India, we have 145 type of tubers, 521 type of leafy vegetables, 101 type of birds and flowers, 647 type of fruits, and 180 type of seeds and nuts. Now you can think of this. How many of you are using in your diet? Nothing. Okay. But thing is, we have to anyhow conserve it. But how would we go for the conservation? It requires the hummingbird approach, which is proposed by the Wangari Muttamarai. She's a Nobel laureate, and she started the Green Belt movement in Kenya, and she's awarded with the Nobel because of her struggle of conservation of the green belt, or you can say trees. And you can see this small 2-minute movie, and it is very inspiration movie which says what is the hummingbird approach of conservation. It is an approach in which what we are doing, we are conserving the biodiversity in a way like hummingbird is doing. Short story in which and during that time the hummingbird is going to the pond and taking the drop of water and try to extinguish this fire. And meanwhile, the largest animal like elephant and rhino, they are asking why you are doing this. So your drop of water will not going to extinguish this fire. But hummingbird replied that the nature has given me the capacity at what level I am doing right now my job. You are having the large trunk, large belly, you can carry more water and you can do your job. So this is the way we have to do, or we will do, about the conserving the biodiversity. Whatever the capacity we have at level of that, we can do it. And that what is done by the many of our mothers and sisters of India. You know about the Chipko movement, which was started by the lady Gora Devi and led by the Sundarlal Bahuguna. But recent time, if we see this Padma Shri Shalumarda, Thimakka, Tulsi Goda, or Rani Bai Pompere, these all are the lady who have gave their life for conservation of the seeds. And you can see this about this, you are well aware about the story of Shalumarda, Thimakka. They don't have any baby, so that stigma they have, the force of that inner soul, they have transformed, like they have conserved 400 banyan trees and 4,000 other trees. The same thing is with the considered as a bee goddess, as well as the Sri Rahiva Pompere. She is considered a seed mother. They have conserved lots of seed of rare and wild varieties. So whatever we are looking is that is for genetic diversity or genetic variability, which contains the traits, and the traits are unique. All fruits are having some starch and some carbohydrate, some protein and some minerals and some oil, but the diversity which lies in the fruit is different at the each and every individual level. So how we would go for the conservation approach? So it is in situ or ex situ. In situ means in a national park or biosphere or in a field. But ex situ conservation method, that is very important right now, because we are comes in under this group, like a home garden. It is a method of ex situ conservation. And the same way, cryopreservation, field gene bank, and the botanical gardens, they all are the place where we can conserve our biodiversity. And the conservation of biodiversity means the diversity which is existed in this earth, and which you can consider like a largest seed of the Lordwickia to the smallest seed of the Arabidopsis, that to have the variability. You can see the variability which is existed in the triticum, means the wheat which we are eating. It also having the variability at the many of the level, like morphology and biochemistry as well as protein level. Same way with the rice, what we are eating, it is not a simple white rice. It is a rice which is having the brown color, it is having the black color, it is having the red color, and it is also comes under wild category. Each and every rice is having its own significance. But what we are eating only one white rice. The same way millet is nowadays town. The millet are the major source of the carbohydrate and minerals, but it is same time very, very important for the women's, since they are having the deficit of the many of the Prasar element that can be sufficed from the minerals. And there are n number of millets are available in India: Porso millet, finger millets, barnyard millet, little millet, and that carry the many of the nutrition, and it is considered as a nutricereal. So it's part of conservation of our university, and I was also part of that in the screening. We have released the finger millet variety CFM V2, which is considered as a Gira. And you know about the 17 biofortified crop variety released and gave to the India from our Honorable Prime Minister. So this is one of them. Gira is one of them. And this is a result of conservation. The same way we have a lal kada, means red rice. It is also a delicacy in the tribal area. When the son-in-law came to the house, and at that time they prepare one special dish which is called as a dudh pak, which is made up from this lal kada, and it is very much rich in zinc and iron. The same way, the Nahari is a concept at Dang, that is the area of Gujarat which is popular for the tribal peoples, and they are conserving this variety in form of Nahari. This is a small hotel type of installation in which they provide these wild grains and the wild legumes and wild cereals, chapati, then after some preparation, and there is a delicacy, and that way they are conserving the biodiversity. Same is true for the legumes. And we have n kind of legumes, but we are still rely on the very few. We have the wild fruits. This is a wonderful thing. And wild fruits, still we are eating apple and few of the guava and pear, plum. That's it. But we have a number 300 type of wild fruits available around. You must be knowing about jack. Jack is having the good variability. Heterocarpus, which is having the 5 species. Among that, this Lakucha is having the very nutritional value, but it is underutilized. The same way, the jack is also having the variability in case of its taste. It is a wonderful. Then after whole Ramayana is carried out by the Annona species group, in which you can know about the Annona squamosa, which is considered as Sitafal, reticulata as a Ramphal, and Muricata as a Laxmanphal, and Cherimola as Hanumanphal, and these two are other species. But we are only using very few out of this. Same way, other is true for the Syzygium species, in which it is known as a Jambun. The huge variability is present. And there are wild fruits which are not, we have utilized yet. It is a very large species. We don't have time to discuss about each and every, but this is the way how we can do the conservation. Then after, the government has announced the Genome Savior Award for the conservation purpose. And if farmers is conserving some variety, they are awarded with the good prizes also. Now, as a conservationist or as a garden we are learning in the garden-based approach, in which we can collect the seed from the wild and how to preserve it. The problem of preservation is seed is having the 3 types. One is orthodox seed, recalcitrant, and intermediate seed. Now, this 3 types, orthodox one is very easy to conserve, but problem is with the recalcitrant and intermediate seed. It is designated from the moisture content what it carries at the time of storage. So it decide how to store your samples or your seeds as per the need. So we can go for the seed bank or directly conserve to our fridge. But when it is a special kind of seeds, then we have to go for the tissue culture, cryopreservation, or field gene bank. And the world leaders are very much worried about this diversity. So they have designed the large, or you can say extra large trees at the pole, on the North Pole, particularly in Svalbard. So this structure is known as a Svalbard Seed Vault, Global Seed Vault, in which they have conserved they have the capacity to conserve the 2 lakh accessions. And this is a installation under a permafrost, and in which they have the capacity to they can store near about 2 lakh of samples, and all over the world has submitted the sample to this Svalbard, and under a permafrost it can remain alive for the 100 of years. And India is also a part of this depository. The same way, in case of India, we have a Changla top in Ladakh. The same installation is there, in which our varieties are preserved there. And you can see the value of such type of conservation is at the time of Aleppo war in Syria, they have destroyed this gene bank of whole the structure, and they have retrieved first time from this Svalbard, and they have revived their agriculture from there. And the same is true with ICRISAT. They are having a good amount of collection of all type of millets and pulses. And at NBPGR, means National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, they have the good amount of conservation. So this is all about the conservation aspect at the global level. Now, what we are doing at our university, I'll share one more presentation. Within 5 minutes, I can complete my presentation. So at slide is visible.
Now,
the junior card lady.
Hello.
Yes, yes, sir. Please go on.
Okay. Now this is the biodiversity conservation. We have 1 hectare area at our university. You can see the top view, and he is the Dr. B.G. Vasi, who is the inspiration source of Conservation Center, and he is a well-known taxonomist of Gujarat. And along with the Dr. B.K. Dhadu, they have started this conservation in 2003-4 center, and the legacy has started from the few lines to up to few accessions to up to 179 species we have conserved in this small area. So from my joining of this station at 2010, I have started the conservation with the first expedition of germplasm conservation of Northeast, particularly Assam, Meghalaya, and Nagaland. We have collected the different species of bamboo, particularly long internode bamboo, which is having the 1 meter of length, and it is particularly useful for the kite industry of Gujarat. And from that we have started, and this was the very challenging for us, because it was the rainy days. In 4 days we were in the for 15 days we were in the Northeast, particularly Nagaland and all the forest, and we have collected the many of biodiversity samples from that, Panax ginseng, then Bhuj jolakya, then Hevia brasiliensis. And from that effort, we have now established this Dr. Jayas. He is handling the bamboo setum, and they have the good establishment, and we have now conserved near about 30 species of bamboo at our center. Now then, after we have also started some work as per the guidance of Dr. Vashi, and he told us that conserve the rare and endangered species. This is the one of them. This is Bombyx insigne. And these are the 2 trees only located on the Kaprada forest in the Dang. So we have organized the systematic collection work, and we have collected the floss out of this 2 trees, and we have planted the Bani tree in our biodiversity. Then same way, Sterculia guttata is also having the very few, only 1 tree was located in the Dang forest, from which we have collected the number of seeds. And this is the, you can see my cursor, this is the in right side, this is the plant which we have planted from this seed. And right now it is about 5-year-old. Same way, Sterculia urens, you can see this beautiful white tree. This is the critically endangered species, because you can see the scar on this trunk. This scar is because of the people are getting gum out of this. This is known as a gum sterculia or sterculia gum. It is used for the gynecological medicine and many medicine. So by doing this, they are injured. They are making the injuries on the tree, and ultimately tree dies. So there are few trees left. So we have collected these. This is the part of students' experiment there, and that tree we have planted in alongside of our pavilion, or you can say the playground. And this was done in 2016. And right now you can see I'm standing just below that, under the shade of that tree. So this is a proud moment for us. The same way, we have also conserved the Entada reedy, and I have collected a few seeds from the Western Ghat, and particularly this Tal Kaveri forest, and that we have planted. And you can see this is after many of the failures, we have finally our climber is reached up to the top of this tree. And what we are expecting, this is the fastener group or the liner. You can say this is a Tarzan whale ultimately, and this is the this is one kind of it forest. And this is the, you can say, the giant. It is also very amazing. Then the same way, we have also conserved the wild fruit, particularly this Aviroya bilimbi, that we have collected this fruits from the biodiversity conservation. And after eating that fruit, I have kept that seed, and right now you can see the same seed is now converted into the fruit. And this last year it bears the fruit, so it is a sort of very good feeling. Then we have also conserved this Enterolobium cyclocarpum, and this is a particular area of Dang, and in which one tree was located, and it is an ancient, British time tree. Nobody has propagated the seed up to now, but we have collected the seeds and we have propagated, and this is the plant which we have right now at our Biodiversity Conservation Center. This is again true for Beckinania lengen, which is known as a charoli, and that also we have done. We have also collected the many of the sample of Heterophragma. It is a wild timber species, and we are also using some help of the student, and this is the tree which we have and form of plant in biodiversity conservation. Then what we are doing, we are also collecting means I am doing it at my home, that we are eating, after eating the many of the dates, and I intentionally buy the good and costly fruits of the dates, and then after we are making such type of seedlings in case of nurseries. And what we are doing, we are giving it free of cost, and we are planting around us. Then this is one of them. Then same time, we are also collected the Stereospermum swavulensis. It is a very important tree nowadays. It is one of ingredient of Dasmularis, and it is again a very important tree species for conservation. We have also conserved the Enset superbum. There are many stories behind that, but we don't have time to discuss right now. That's why I'm skipping some in between. Enset superbum, this is a diploid banana, and wild banana, it is also called. It bears the seeds, and this seed is having the antiviral properties. And the tribals people, the child of tribal particularly, they are selling this particular seed at the time of Holi. And at the time of Holi, if you are giving the powder of which come out from the seed with the honey to the child will never succumb to any viral disease. Then we have also conserved the Caesaria, Barringtonia, Triglia nudiflora, and Diospyros. She is a mineral. She is also doing very hard to conserve the biodiversity. And we are also conserving the flowering trees. This is the Fermiana colorata that we have collected and we have reported from the forest. And this is a beautiful tree, as well as the Tabibia rosea. This is also available in our biodiversity conservation. You can see the bloom. Then we have also introduced some exotic fruits like canistel by the Abhishek Mehta. And this is same as a sapota, but it is not sapota. It is not from India. Then we are also planting some ornamental tree. This is Capellia that I have collected from IIHR seed. I have collected from IIHR. This is the height that it has gained in my biodiversity. Then we are also working on the collection of wild mangoes. This page, this is known as the Dawn. It is a hill station. Just below hill station, you can see the vegetation. This vegetation is not a normal vegetation. It is designated as a unique vegetation since it is having the thousands of wild mangoes. Okay. Now you can see this is designated as a unique vegetation, and you need a permission to enter inside this. And we have explored about the diversity of wild mango. We are because of this lockdown, we have not continued with this, but this is a unique patch in our forest. There are different story behind that, but we don't have time to discuss. Then we have sometime collect the seeds from the forest and some already available establishment. Among that, one is Clisthanthes collinus. This is used for lac culture that we have grown in our biodiversity conservation. But afterwards, after 4 years of this plantation, I came to know about that this is a poisonous plant, and this is utilized by the suicidal attempt, particularly in the south. And so sometime it happens when you are introducing something, you don't know about the what purpose it is used. Then we are having the Dilenia pentagina. This is a wild fruit, and this what we have established at our Biodiversity Conservation Center. We are also conserving some kind of orchids from the forest. These are the different species and that we have collected. Among that, Erythrina, then Annona, which is used in cancer, Kidia, Tecomella, and wild cotton, and Xerophis. And we are also involved in the sex determination in case of date palm. We have developed the method to identify in early stage whether it is male or female. We can identify very well. And we have the Garcinia, then Hypini, then Barbados kind of cherries with us that we have collected and established at our Biodiversity Conservation Center. Our Vice Chancellor is very much interested in this activities, and they often visit our Biodiversity Center. Sometimes they organize the meet, this kind of meets also. So this is the staff and interaction with the Vice Chancellor in the Biodiversity Conservation Center. And all staff and all the members, they support us for labeling and maintaining this and for introduction of many of the tree species. Same time, we are also working on mangroves conservation, particularly haplotyping. I am looking about after the South Gujarat mangroves, particularly in the Purna estuary. These are the different mangroves tropics that we have connected from these islands. These are the islands which are nearby Purna estuary, and it is connected with the Arabian Sea. So I am working on these islands, and we are struggling hard. This is the one of them. This island, it is very difficult to reach, but anyhow, we are working very hard for the conservation of mangroves. So these are some photographs from that islands in which we are working. Here's Dr. Vijay and Dr. Vimal. These two are also involved in the conservation biodiversity. We are organizing many of the expedition of collection and conservation. He's my son. He's also interested in conservation, and they are helping me out many times. So these are the stalwart from which we have learned. Dr. Bashi, and this is Dr. Meenu Parabia, and is myself, and this is Dr. Vimal, and we all are working together for conservation of biodiversity. We never know about these seeds that what it carries. Sometimes if we consider the seed of this ficus, it is very minute, but see how large structure it carries with it. So that's why it is very important to conserve the seeds. At the same time, it is very crucial to disseminate among the children's. Thank you very much. So the
opportunity to share my experience and the little knowledge that I have. Thank you, Dr. Vipul Parekh, for giving it such a fantastic start, very inspirational. And I would like to start the presentation, just sharing it with you all. Please let me know if you can see the presentation.
Not yet, ma'am. Yeah, it's come.
Yeah, it has come.
Okay, yeah, I'll just put it in the right. You can see it now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll start with what to expect from this workshop. We all understand you're all a scientist. We understand that it is a big science, seed conservation, seed propagation, and it's going to need it's a lifetime study for anybody. And it's just an introduction, 35 minutes that we have. We will be covering the basics, more like guidelines for this workshop on the seed propagation, harvesting, and conservation. Towards the end of the session, I will be covering some tips from my own experience. And do not be in a hurry to take notes if you must. I've just mentioned my mobile number here, and you can contact me later for that. I can share the presentation with you. So this is a very beautiful word from the sage Sant Tukaram, he is born in Maharashtra. You might have heard of him. And the line that I'm going to read it out. Adi
bija ekale. Adi bija ekale, bija ankurale, ropa vadhale, which literally means it starts with a seed. It sprouts and then the tree grows, just like the banyan tree that Dr. Vipul Parekh showed us, Patel showed us. Sorry for that. Eka bija poti, taru koti koti, janma gheti, sumane phale. So one seed gives birth to thousands and lakhs of seeds and flowers and fruit. व्यापुनी जगता तू ही अनंता बहुविध रूपे घेसी घेसी परि अंति brahma ekale, and that's the eternal truth, and it actually overwhelms us. It is Brahma. So every seed has that much power. That's the power every seed holds. So I started off my journey 8 years ago. After spending 20 years in IT industry, I was also trying to go back to my roots, and I wanted to work very closely with the nature. I call myself a seed mafia because wherever I go, whichever place I go, first I visit the local mandi there. I try to go to the interiors of that place and try and get the seeds from there. And that is something that has always inspired me. That is something that has always given me the energy to go further. Whenever I grow seeds, propagate them, it gives me energy. It gives me that power. And we all know that it's the first link to the food chain and the repository for our future evolution. Dr. Patel spoke about the seed vault in India and in the universal seed vault. It's a big hope for all of us. You all are scientists. We know that our gardens, our farms are a huge seed. It's a laboratory. It's a living laboratory. And every day, every moment that a farmer or an agriculturist spends in the farm is learning. Because it doesn't stop. It's evolving every day, and it is dependent on so many things which are dynamic in the nature, that there is chance to learn every day. Our seeds are also evolving with the evolving climate around us and the conditions. And so each one of us, each farmer is is a scientist in its own way. And I started my observations. I started my journey by observing nature very keenly. Sorry, the slides are not moving very fast. What could be the reason, Vidal?
Ma'am, it's moved, I think, ma'am. Is this the slide that you're expecting?
One
This
second.
is a sign. How many of you agree?
Okay. You can see this, is okay?
Yes.
So, yeah. So the threat, the current industrial food system, see, there is a difference between an agriculturist and the difference between someone who is doing farming in a very sustainable way. Industrial farming is more towards, creating, using monoculture and creating volumes, generating volumes. It is focused on how much we are growing and not focusing on what we are growing, quantity versus quality. Now, the world I come from is of the farmers who are more conscious of the quality, who are more conscious of the conservation. So there is this huge difference. And because of the shift in the agriculture and the way we are growing our food today, there has been a depletion in the varieties and the biodiversity. And it's a very heartening fact that there are people who are not farming but are actively participating in the seed conservation. And I see a conservationist in each one of us. We don't have to be a farmer or an agriculturist with a huge piece of land to conserve the seed. So I see a farmer in each one of us, a conservationist in each one of us. We are nurturers. We are at the forefront of the seed sovereignty. We have seen that in every household of a farmer, of an agriculturist, a woman takes the initiative, and it comes very naturally to her because it's just like nurturing a child and giving it the care, giving it the right kind of conditions so it can bring about the fruit, very healthy fruit for the next accession, next the species. We know these are very inspirational women. I have worked with Padma Shri Rahibai Popre. She has worked largely on the bean varieties, the Hessian bean and the wild varieties in Akole region, in Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. We have shared the same platform in various events. She is really inspirational. She has huge knowledge. Padma Shri Trinity Sau, who has been really instrumental and she has inspired people in Meghalaya to grow the Lakadong variety of turmeric. Then Tulsi Gowdaji, who has worked extensively in the forest. Her name, and she is a household name today in Karnataka and across India. She has huge knowledge of the wild herbs. Okay, there is a lag. The screens are not moving as fast. So there are different methods for different, conserving different kind of seeds. And like we have so many varieties of edible. There are edible sources of grains. We can have food. The nutrition can come from the grains, millets, pulses, legumes, vegetables, then tubers, flowers, edible flowers, herbs, spices, fruits, nuts, and trees. There are many trees where we can eat the leaves of the trees also when it is infant trees, medicinal plants, and it's something that is highly unexplored. As Dr. Patel said, that we are eating only, I think, not even 20% of the agrobiodiversity or the biodiversity that we have today. And it's very important, if we want to conserve, we need to bring it back to the food plate. And up till now, my effort has been to bring back some varieties which have been extinct, whether it is forest food, whether it is varieties of legumes or grains, which were extinct, to bring it back to the food plate by working with the farmers, mainly the tribal farmers. So here are some important pointers on the seed selection. So it's very important to trace the ingenuity of the seed, indigenous seed, because that is something that we want to take forward. And if you have chance, please choose organically grown seeds, seeds with geographical indication. Why it is important? Because every seed has an characteristic, the flavor, the look of the seed, also the nutritional value which comes from that. All the characteristics come from the local conditions, the microclimate that it is grown in. So when you want to propagate something, it is best to get the GI somewhere that comes from that particular region. To give you an example, the Ambe Mohar rice, which is really famous, fragrant rice, comes from Mawal. Ambe Mohar means the mango in fluorescence. So when you cook this rice, it actually smells like the mango in fluorescence. The Paigambari wheat, which is tiny like jowar grain from the MP region, we have been successful in bringing it back to the food plate, and Our customers are really enjoying the benefits of that because it is very less in gluten. The Bhalia wheat from Gujarat, Lakadong turmeric from Meghalaya, black cotton from Gujarat, which is now world famous, Vaigao turmeric from Varda, which is known to have very high level of curcumin, just like the Lakadong. The microclimatic conditions and origin define the characteristics as we spoke about. The next thing that we can do is do the germination test. Once you have it, if you get hold of good quantity of seed, then look for the germination. I'm trying for the next slide. Still, why is the so slow?
Yeah, I think it is the connectivity, ma'am, from your side.
Is it because I'm on a very high speed connection currently? Yeah, because this is gone now many slides ahead. Yeah. Yeah, create a forest kind of ecosystem which is stable for the birds and the bees to thrive in the farm because they are the ones who will pollinate the seeds. And if it is because if you have very less quantity of seed, it is better if you use seed trays or a small piece of land in your farm or in your garden or small piece where you can create do the sapling, give it a nice, you can give it a nice care. Once it is grown, say with the 7 healthy leaves, you transplant them because the root system is sturdy enough. The varieties which you cross pollinate, then you can transplant. The varieties which you cross pollinate need to be planted accordingly, making sure a different variety of the same species is isolated. Now, the natural way to isolate is to put a separator crop which is taller in height, okay, and stop the cross pollination because you are looking at the genetic uh, uh, variety, that particular genetic variety. So it is very important to control the pollination and control the plant, the things around it, environment around it. Open pollinated seeds are better than hybrid. All of us know that because it can bear the fruit. We keep telling our farmers to join us to use as many desi and indigenous seeds as possible. It's really difficult to get seeds today, the starter pack, and it starts with the propagation. We really encourage the farmers because they have to uh, do the livelihood by growing things and then propagating. We have also teaching them how to propagate the seeds. We are giving them the starter seeds. The varieties with the smaller plants are self-pollinating like peanuts, tomatoes, wheat, rice. All the grass varieties are self-pollinating, and with the small flowers are self-pollinating. We can also transplant into the field plot. The care that one needs to do is keep the new pots in the shade. Okay, when you transplant in the evening time. Okay, so that it is not subjected to the harsh sunlight. The roots are not yet strong. You have just transplanted it. So keep it, transplant it in the evening, make the soil moist, and you can surround it with other saplings to give each other support. And these are some guidelines that I have given. Provide bamboo stick if it is just a climber. So give as much care as possible when you are transplanting because it's very precious thing that you have the seed. For farmers, choose a field that has not been under the same crop for previous 2 years because that would reduce the risk of the diseases, whatever the soil-borne diseases, which could be there in the soil. So make sure that you are not using the same soil, the field. Choose a soil type which is closest. Sometimes you have picked up something which grows very well in the red soil or the black soil. So you have to choose a soil accordingly, create an environment, check the salinity, the pH level of the soil, the drainage. These are little technical to understand right now, but this is what will actually give the results. These are the steps to understand initially. Plant on the ridges because you want to maintain the moisture level, you want to protect the plant as much as you can to get the accession. Assign the row number for identification. The documentation is really important. Just planting the seed is not enough. You must start documenting. I would suggest choose a full moon cycle. That's where the water content in the soil is higher and the energy everywhere is higher. So I think choose a full moon cycle. As per our Vedic calendar also, if you go back to the Rishi Krishi, it's documented over there, they would choose a full moon cycle. The monitoring during the propagation, obviously we have to watch each plant separately. If you have more than 2, 3, how the plants are how flowering, which plant is getting more bloom, which flowers, etc. The height, how many shoots it has, what is the color of the leaves, how healthy it is. Your identification starts with that because the plant which looks healthiest, which is sturdiest, is what you have to maintain. And the plant which is not sturdy enough, I think you will have to let go if it is disease, if there is any kind of pest attack on that. You will use all the methods of pest control, which are the all the natural ways of controlling the pest or managing the pest attack. But whichever looks healthiest, you maintain that. The other one you have to sadly get rid of. Also look at the flowering pattern, as I said, and the color. The deeper it is, the healthier, the bigger it is, it's the better one. The seed color, because in the seeds also, when you're choosing the seed, it's very important because you will visually understand which seed is healthy. Like we have a glow on our face. Each and every seed has that because it's packed with energy. It looks different. Okay. So I think we have to choose seeds which are the healthiest ones. And when you have the plants are growing, it's flowering, I think remove the weeds so that it can get more nutrition. There are some weeds which are good for growth of the plants also, and that needs little study because it depends on every ecosystem has a different way because it holds the soil. So just do not remove all the weeds blindly. There are some which are very good for the local bees and butterflies. They love to feed on them. So it's important to know which weeds to get rid of. Okay, she's a very spirited lady, and her second generation is also into farming in Pune. I come from Pune region, and now she has, as she says, she is retired from farming, active farming. This is a pigeon pea plant which is grown on a construction site. That's a new house which is being built up, and she's harvesting the pods. You can see which I'm highlighted. These were thrown by, I think it's just fallen off, and it has grown so beautifully. It didn't need any kind of care. It just grew on its own on just a heap of soil, which was collected, a debris which was collected while the construction is going on. So that is the importance of a healthy seed. So once you have a healthy seed, the rest, everything will follow. What is in our control is how to not destroy the ecosystem around it, because the seed comes with its own power. Nature has already given it the power. We have to make sure that we do not destroy the ecosystem around it and just keep it as it is. Okay. And she is using her conventional wisdom while harvesting the seed. The seed has to be really dry at the time you harvest it. Here now it's the other way around, exactly other way around. You have to choose non-moon day, the low tide, when the moisture content in the air is very low, because obviously the seeds which are we going to be harvesting, they're going to be stored for a longer period or a midterm period. So choose a Amavasya day, especially towards the evening. You can start harvesting the seeds. Each harvest each fruit, when it is dry and when it makes a rattling sound, especially for the beans, okra, these varieties. Things like the tomato or the brinjal, you can let it dry on the tree itself. Tomato will fall off, but the brinjal, when it is really heavy, or you can hang it in your house. I will, at the end of this presentation, I'm just going to show you the kind of seed selection and how different kind of seeds can be stored for a long term, some vegetable seeds. Harvest the pods from each plant separately, because it's really important. As I said, if you have planted multiple seeds and you want to do a seed conservation, harvest them separately and keep them separately, clearly label them, keep them in separate packets, and keep them in a jute sack for drying. Do not expose it to the sun directly. Let it be filtered, and do not harvest the diseased plant. Actually, you should get rid of the diseased plant so that the other plants do not get affected. Dry the pods and the fruits for 2 to 3 days, about 12% of moisture. Okay, now there are equipments available to measure the moisture content. Is easily available everywhere. If there are limited number of pods, just separate the seeds manually. You can maintain it in the pods also, but the idea to open the pods is to see the size of the seed, the health of the seed, how it is looking. So you can open and see. I prefer to maintain it in the pod. Looking at the pod, I can imagine what kind of seed would be inside. Clean the seed for debris and clean it up completely. If you must remove, because for a farmer, it is difficult to keep that kind of volume. So you can remove, clean it, and keep it, separate the seed. Collect equal quantities of the seed from each plant, because this is it's a technique that we are using in the seed propagation, and put it in a muslin cloth so that it can breathe easily. And for further drying, you can use it. Verify the accession identity using seed trait. Reject seed samples within the pod also, or in that whatever you have harvested which have high infection, especially the fungal infection. You will see, just reject that for long-term conservation. Dry the seeds to 5 to 7% moisture, and naturally, of course, avoid any kind of chemical treatment on your seeds. Now, the traditional methods of storage and conservation. Depending on how many seeds that you have, you can start with a glass jar which is airtight. If you have, if you do not have access to mud pots, which are the best actually, the traditional methods which some of our farmers are still using in the tribal belt are like this. I have put some pictures. The koti is made from bamboo, special variety of weed and grasses which grow locally over there. And these people have that inherent knowledge, and these also have the medicinal qualities, these weeds and grasses. Okay, so it's not only making the structure, but it's also the oils that they have, which they secrete, which will repel any kind of pest. So those grasses and weeds are chosen to weave the kotis, to weave the bamboo basket. Cow dung and cow urine, which are natural, they repel, disinfectant, very mild, and it's easily available for a farmer, even for urbanites like us today, because of there are so many local gauchalas are coming up. So cow dung, cow urine, dried cow dung and cow urine is you can be used. Neem leaves, which are shade dried. Wood ash is good. Roasted red soil is also good for conservation because soil is said to have all the disinfectant qualities in it. That's why we were encouraged to play barefoot in the soil. And today, even today, we encourage kids to play barefoot in the soil. Mothers are a little scared to leave their children in the soil or play in the mud, but I think that is one of the best ways where children will build immunity, very high immunity, because after all, our food grows from the soil. It takes from the soil. The soil has all the natural qualities which will help even to disinfect things. Thatch roof for ventilation, because you want the air and the oxygen to come in that koti. Okay, but you're going to cover your seed because you want to maintain the temperature. It shouldn't be too cold. It shouldn't be too hot. Warm also. Mixture of lime, countdown from covering the mud structure.
Excuse me, ma'am. You have
Yeah?
7 more minutes. 7 more minutes for the
Yeah,
question.
it's just we are coming to the end.
Yes. Thank you.
I think we have lost a lot of time because of the delay in the slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So then I will just without seeing the slides, I will just talk about the other things. There are other ways you can use the these are some structures just to show you. These are used in some parts and still it looks beautiful, isn't it? In the tribal belt, some structures which are still using mud pots. And these are the modern ways of storage because of the limitation that we have. It has to be kept above the ground so that, when it is too cold or too hot, it is not transferred. Inside, we are doing the airtight bags, vacuum bags. We are sucking out entire oxygen, and then we are keeping the seeds so there is no infect. It's taking out all the kind of infectants from it. The information that is supposed to be collected during the regeneration is don't forget to note this: the site name where you have grown, the GPS reference, the plot nursery where you have grown it, accession number, population identification, where you have got the seed from, the generation of the previous, if you're multiplying the previous, what you have done in the previous year, preparation of planting materials, sowing date, density, field layout, field management, how much water, how much fertilizer, natural fertilizer you have done, whether the plant has gone through any stress, number of plants established, days from flowering to flowering, the pollination, harvest date. So dates are very important that you please note them down, quantity of seeds that you have harvested, and the things like that. Please maintain a small diary and note it down. So the tips that what I started off with no seeds. So what the best thing was for me to visit farmers, to stay with them, ask for heirloom seed. I went to my native, met the old community over there, collected some seeds, and then started off with my terrace garden. And that's where I propagated the seeds. I got my confidence and then moved to the farm. Today, after 7 years, I may not be farming, but I'm still a seed saver. I still grow seeds in the terrace garden that I have, and I freely distribute them. I have distributed, and this is of no charge. Whatever seeds I have, I distribute them freely. So whoever needs, please, you can contact me. And it starts with the children. A good seed has to be shared. It is like happiness. When you give, it just multiplies. So before we end this session from another login, I am going to show you something, a display over here. I hope all of you are with me here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, these are some vegetable seeds which are not removed from the vegetables. The ridge gourd. You can hear me, I suppose. There is this huge bin. We call it abai babai. The pink, this is the seed inside this. Okay, this is the seed inside this. This is a sponge goat. See how healthy it is.
See
This is
how the
okra
dry
with
seeds
12
are become.
serrations.
They covers fully. That's how they save the seeds.
We have tried to keep all seed varieties from grains to pulses, legumes, some forest varieties also over here. And these are the things that you can use in conservation. Of course, the red chili, vekhanda, the wood ash, dibba. We give it to cows also when they have a little upset stomach. It's quite medicinal. In the seed kothi, we can put that. And there is gomutra that you can cover your storage kothis with. Dry cow dung. Activated charcoal is not here, but in the display right now. But that can also be used to maintain the moisture. Okay. See how beautifully the torans have been weaved by the farmer women in Karnataka, border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. It's a visual delight. So coming back to myself, thank you very much, everybody.
Into two parts. So the first part, I will talk about a documentary that I shot and show some clips from it. And in the other part, I will talk about some tips that you can perhaps find helpful in making better videos. Okay, so I shot a documentary in 2005 in Medak district of, now it falls under Telangana. At the time it was in Andhra Pradesh. And over there, a NGO called the Deccan Development Society had helped women to organize themselves. These were women farmers, and they had organized themselves into groups. They call the groups Sangams, and the Sangams are basically village level self-help groups, women's groups. Now, most of the women who are part of these groups, they are coming from Dalit and tribal communities. They are marginal farmers, just maybe having 1 to about 3 acres of land. And through these Sangams, these women had started reviving traditional systems of agriculture. So, Medak district, this is, a sort of semi-arid area. It is very drought prone. It has poor soil. But even in this very unforgiving land, a lot of local varieties of crops were grown. Grains, which is sorghum and millet, which is jowar and bajra, which are their main staple. And then also many legumes, many greens, medicinal plants, and even wild plants, uncultivated plants. So there was always a very rich nutritional diet in that area. But of course, over time, chemical farming was introduced. First, it was adopted by the big landholders. Then the small farmers started also using chemicals in their farming. They were growing cash crops. They were growing hybrid and genetically modified seeds in an area in which there is actually very poor rainfall. And so over time, agriculture itself became a very unviable occupation because the soil quality deteriorated. The cost was too high with buying pesticides and fertilizers. So a lot of the land around these villages was just left fallow and was no longer cultivated. Now, through these sangams, these women were trying to revive the old forgotten crops. And as Vaishali already mentioned, women are the ones who preserve the seeds. They are the ones who conserve. And they found these old seeds, because mothers and grandmothers, mothers-in-law had saved those seeds. So they had never got rid completely of all the old seeds. And, women anyway, I think they are very suspicious of all these so-called advances in agriculture. And so they had saved these seeds. So even when I talk to them, when I talk to the women, even the ones who are still cultivating cash crops, they will tell you, these cash crops, this is not for us. We don't eat this stuff. Who knows where it goes, who buys it, who eats it. So they're very clear about these things, that this is only done for money. It is only sold for money. So these women found many, many old varieties of seeds and were trying to go back to growing them. Now, what actually interested me and why I got involved in this project was that some of these women had been trained in video shooting by the NGO. So this was really fascinating for me because I had spent 4 years in a film school getting training to be a filmmaker, and here with these women farmers who were doing the same thing as I was doing, and I was totally fascinated by this, and I thought this is very interesting and I want to see what they're doing there. So they were using videos in order to document what they were doing, and they were also using their video films in order to convey and to communicate to other farmers to turn them back from chemical farming to organic farming. So I'm going to show you a clip now from my film. And this is a scene about how they are preserving the seeds. Sweetal, shall I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I play it now.
ఇప్పుడు జొన్నల్లోనే ఎన్ని రకాలు పెడతారు?
ఇప్పుడు జొన్నల్లో పజ్జొన్న ఒకటి, గుండు జొన్న, తోక జొన్న, పజ్జొన్నలని, ఎర్ర జొన్న, గరీబ్ జొన్న, మర తెల్లమల్లె జొన్న, అత్తగోడండ్ల జొన్న, రిక పచ్చలు. ఇప్పుడు 5-6 రకాల జొన్నలు పెడతాం మనము.
ఎన్ని రకాలు ఉంటాయి మొత్తం?
ఇప్పుడు మా దగ్గర ఇథనాలు మొత్తము 85 రకాల ఇథనాలు ఉన్నాయి. మా ఉన్నాయి అన్ని రకాలు వచ్చి పునాస రబ్బి కలిసి. అసొంటి మేము అస్సలు తీసుకున్నాం. కంపెనీ ఇథనాలు అసొంటి ఏం తీసుకున్నాం. అట్లా అది మొలుస్తుందా మొలవదో మాకు చేనులో పెడితే భరోసం ఉండదు, అది నమ్మకం ఉండదు, అది మంచి పంట కూడా కాదు అని మా ఇతనం మా చేనులో వండిందే ఎన్నేరుకొని అది కొట్టి మెత్తేసుకొని పెట్టుకుంటేనే మంచిగా ఉంటుంది అని మెత్తేసి పెడతాం.
అంటే వేరే వాళ్ళు కూడా ఇట్లా చేయొచ్చేమో కదా, మీకే ఎందుకు చెప్పి పని?
ఏమి చెప్పారు అంటే మంచిగా చేస్తుంది ఏమి అన్నట్లు చేసి చెప్పిండ్రు. చేస్తున్నాం. మాత వింటుండే ముందు అవి మంచిగా మెత్తేస్తుందని ఏమున్నాయి. ఏం పెడుతున్నావు అంటున్నా, కొండపోతారు మంచిగా అన్నట్ల ఒక్కడికి 2 అయితే అని తీసేసి పెడతాము. మరో కొండపోతారు మరో తెచ్చిస్తారు నాకే, అవి మెత్తేస్తా. ఇట్లా ఇంకేమన్నా సరే
Okay. So this is a clip that shows how they're preserving the seeds. So they, use neem leaves, they use wood ash from the cooking fires, and they cover it with cow dung. But what is also interesting is that, she has mixed 2 varieties of seeds that are more resistant to crops and seeds that are, more prone to, seeds that are resistant to pests and those who are, prone to pests. So you are kind of protecting those seeds. Also, I really love the thing that, they never sell these seeds for money. Seeds are exchanged only in return for seeds. So always the seed stock grows, and you're also distributing those seeds for others to grow. So that I find that really very wonderful. Now, what I was really interested in was, what kind of transformation was happening there. I mean, being part of these sangams and reviving traditional systems of agriculture, what sort of impact did this have on the women's lives? And what I found was that it had a tremendous benefits. The first is that, there was a very strong women's empowerment movement. 5,000 women are part of these sangams. These sangams are in about 75 villages. And the women there who, were actually on the margins of their community were now the ones who were taking decisions. They were the ones who had assumed leadership roles. They had a new status in their village. That was the one thing that I always found. These women were extremely strong, and they were also very fearless. They were not shy. They were also talking to men as equals. This was a big change that had happened. The other thing that happened was that a lot of the land around the village that had been lying fallow was brought back under cultivation. So as of date, 10,000 acres of degraded agricultural land has now been brought back into active cultivation. So what has happened with that is that the yield, the amount of grain that they are growing has is increased 6 times from what they were growing earlier. So this has ensured the food security of the whole community. And then also they are growing so many different varieties. As you saw, this old lady and her daughter, they alone keep 85 varieties of seeds. And they told me that in these baskets, these seeds will survive for up to 70, 75 years. Nothing will happen to them. So even in these very small land holdings that they have, 1 acre, 2 acre, they were growing many varieties of crops. And this way, they were also ensuring the nutrition and health needs of their families. So, because, this is also another thing that the women are always responsible for. It's women who have to procure the food, women who have to cook the food, women who have to take care of a sick member if somebody's sick in the family. So this burden falls on them. And so they find that this is the way they can protect the nutritional and health needs of their family, So, and even, when you talk to them, they will say, oh, if we grow one crop, the men will go and sell it in the market. And then that money will be over in a few days, because most of the money will be blown up on liquor, because the men will spend it all on alcohol and there will be no money left. So we would rather grow more varieties of crops. And it was really the Sangam meetings are very strong. And, I once asked them, I said, so why don't you let the men also be part of these Sangams? And they said that they had tried it, but they found the men very disruptive, because the men would often come drunk to the meetings. So they preferred that it's only a women's group. And one other very interesting thing that they started in their villages, so 50 villages out of the 75 villages have their own public distribution system, which means that they are no longer dependent on the grains that the government ration shops sell. So anyway, the government ration shops just sell wheat and rice, and this is not their staple grains. So in their village grain fund, in their village alternative public distribution system, they are having all the local grains. And in a very democratic exercise, they have decided which family in the village requires how much. I will show you a clip in which you will see that. So this public distribution system has been very important, because even in critical times, like when there is a bad weather, there are heavy rains, or there is drought, the food security is maintained of the whole village, and also even the most destitute and the poorest member of the village doesn't go hungry. So I will show you another clip. Here they are also shooting, and also it is interesting to see them making their films.
అది ఎక్కడో వండుతాయి బియ్యం, అది మస్తు గోధుమలో ఎన్ని దినాలు మురిగిపోతాయో తెలియదు. ఎలక గొత్తికలు అవి దున్య ముక్కిపోయినాయి వస్తాయి బియ్యం. సర్కారు వేరు వేసి పండిస్తారు వాటిని. పైసలు చేతులుంటే 3 రోజులు ఇస్తాడు బియ్యం. ఆ పైసలు గిన కూళ్ళు ఎవరని ఇవ్వకపోయారు, మా ఇంటిని పైసలు లేకపోయావు టైంకు, ఇక ఆ బియ్యం కూడా ఇవ్వడు.
ఒక 10 మంది బియ్యం తేలేదు అనుకుంటే ఇక్కడ 5 రూపాయలకి ఇచ్చేది గిట్ట ఆయన 10 రూపాయలకి అమ్ముకుంటాడు డీలరు. కానీ మనకు మాత్రం పైసలు లేని 3 దినాలు ఆర్డర్ పెడతాడు, 3 దినాలు అయిన తర్వాత బియ్యం ఇక్కడ ఇయ్యడు. మనతో ఇప్పుడు ఈ నెలలో కొనబోతామని మళ్ళీ కొనబోకపోతే కూడా ఈ నెల ఆ నెల కలిపిగిన మనం ఇస్తాము. 20 కిలోలు కావాలంటే కూడా మన పైసలు లేవంటే కూడా ఉద్ధరించి తీసుకుంటాము. కాకపోతే కూడా ఈ నెల ఆ నెల ఇయ్యలే, ఈ నెల కావాలి మాకంటే కూడా మనం ఇస్తాం. ఇక్కడ అది ఉన్నది మన దగ్గర.
ఇక ఇప్పుడు ఇట్లా సంఘం చేసుకున్నాక ఈ పీడిఎస్ పని ఏమది అనేది ఇక్కడ తెచ్చిండ్రు వీళ్ళు. తెచ్చినాక మేము మొత్తం ఊరు పెద్ద మనుషులు, ఊరు పట్టేదాళ్ళు అందరు కూర్చొని ఒక పిఆర్ చేసిండ్రు. ఎడ్లు దూళ్ళు, మళ్ళా ఉన్నోళ్ళకు భూమి ఉన్నోళ్ళకేమో పచ్చకారడు పుట్టించినాము. మళ్ళా అందులోనే భూమి ఎర్ర భూమి ఉన్నది, గిల్ల భూమి ఉన్నది. అందులోనే ఏమి దూళ్ళు మేకలు అవి లేని వాళ్ళకేమో ఎర్ర కారటు. ఇక పూర్తిగా ఏమి లేని వాళ్ళకు, అనాథులు లేకున్న వాళ్ళకు నల్ల కారటు.
శంకరంట 2 ఎకరాలు ఎడ్లు లేవు, మేకలు లేవు, కోళ్ళు లేవు, ఏం
6 మంది ఆడోళ్ళు, ఒక ఎక్కరు రాసింది సిలింగి భూమి.
కింద 10 ఏండ్ల కింద పడిపడ్డ భూములు, ఆ భూములలో 52 ఎకరాలు పిడిఎస్ తీసుకున్నారు. తీసుకొని ఒక్కొక్క ఎకర్కు 4,200 రూపాయలు అక్కడ అప్పిచ్చిండ్రు వాళ్ళకి. జొన్నల రూపంగా తెగిపోతాయి అనుకో. ఇవి ఎప్పుడైతే మనకు తిండి తిప్పలు ఎక్కువ ఉంటుందో వానకాలంలో, అప్పుడు అనేది ఒక 6 నెలలు వాస్తాం ఈ జొన్నలు. నా పైసలు ఇచ్చి ఆడ కరెక్ట్ రాసుకో. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేస్తున్నాము. ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసినప్పుడు మన కంటి లెవెల్కి ఉండాలి మనిషి. ఈ కెమెరాకు మన కంటి చూపుకి ఎట్లా ఉండాలో అట్లా కెమెరాకు ఉండాలి అన్నమాట. మీకు ఎన్ని ఎకరాల భూమి?
నాకు 2 ఎకరాలు.
2 ఎకరాలు ఏమేమి పంట పెడతాం?
2 ఎకరాలలో సజ్జ పెడతా, పచ్చజొన్న పెడతా.
గట్టిగా చెప్పి తిన్నవేమో.
పచ్చజొన్న పెడతా, కొర్ర పెడతా, సజ్జ పెడతా, మరి 15 రకాల దగ్గర పెడతా.
ఎన్ని రకాల పంట ఎందుకు పెడతారు?
ఇన్ని రకాల పంట నాకు తిననీకే ఉంటాయి ఇంట్లో. ఒక్క పంట పెడితే మొగోళ్ళు తీసుకుపోయి అమ్ముకుంటారు. ఇన్ని రకాలు పెడితే అవి 4 గంటలు ఇవి 4 గంటలు ఇంట్లో ఉండేటందుకు. ఇంట్లో ఉంటాయి పిల్లలు తిన్నీకే, మొగోళ్ళు తీసుకుపోయి అమ్ముకోవచ్చు.
Right. So this is this clip shows how the public distribution system in the village is organized and how it starts. So this woman who's handling this public distribution system that you see, she used to earlier during times of hunger, she would have to go and ask at other houses, to give her grain. And here now she's the one who's managing this whole grain bank, so it has completely changed her status and also her confidence, and also in terms of hunger, it has changed the whole dynamics of that village. So these are the really tremendous benefits that have happened because of this whole movement. And it is a whole movement. It is an ecological movement because it has led to the ecological restoration of that area. And it is a women's movement. And it is also women that shows that marginal small farmers can grow organically and can grow sustainably, that they can get enough in order to live from their land, which in fact they had abandoned and which was not giving them enough income. So they had to look for work outside that. But now it is this land alone is enough to take care of their needs and also even have a surplus at the end of it. So this is and continues to be, in fact, the Deccan Development Society just got a very important award just 2 years ago. So it's a whole system that has spread in this particular district, and it really would be wonderful to see it replicated also in other parts of the country. Now, say I make documentaries because I want to tell stories of real people and of real situations. This is what interests me. And the women over there are making films for another reason. They are making films in order to first and foremost have a record of what they are doing, and also a record of their seed varieties, a record of also the changes that are happening in their villages. And secondly is they are using it in order to create awareness and in order to also educate other farmers in the area to turn back to the traditional forms of agriculture. So it doesn't matter what you use video for. In the end, we all want to communicate with it. And so it's important to use it in a way in which your message and what you want to convey comes across most effectively. Film is a language in itself. It's a visual language, and it has its limits, it has its advantages. So how can we use the strengths of video in order to make videos that are interesting, that are effective, and that also evoke some empathy with what you are showing? So I wanted to share now some tips on how you can make better videos. I will just share the PowerPoint I have made. Okay. So, video has become so accessible. All of us now have phones which have video on it. We don't need expensive video equipment any longer to make videos. If you have a digital still camera, DSLR, you will also have the video mode on this. So all of us can shoot videos, and the tips I'm sharing are mostly for, I think most people will be making videos on their phones, but it's also applicable to, if you're using your DSLR to make videos. So the first tip I'm going to share is that it's quite obvious, but I think it needs to be said that please, if you're using your phone video, record in the landscape mode. And this means that hold your phone horizontally and not vertically. I see many videos with which are shot vertically, and I'll tell you there are two reasons for this. One is that the aspect ratio of the horizontal frame The aspect ratio is nothing but the ratio of the width to the height. Now that aspect ratio of the horizontal frame will fit perfectly with the aspect ratio of your computer screens. So when you show the video on your computer screens, it fills up the screen completely. But if you are shooting in holding the phone vertically, then what will happen is that you will have a lot of black on the left and right side of your frame. Also, it is not how we watch films, right? When we go to a movie theater, the screens are horizontal. When we're watching on television, our television screens are horizontal. We are not watching films in a on vertical screens. And the other important thing is that when you're holding your phone horizontally, you can pack a lot more information in your shot than when you are doing it in the portrait mode. So this is the first tip. What? Okay. The second is that you don't have to stand in one place and shoot the whole video. You can vary your camera's position, which means that you can move. You can use different angles. You can shoot from high angle. You can shoot from low angle. You can also use different shot sizes. You can shoot close-ups. You can shoot wide shots. You can shoot medium shots. Like wide shots are very good because wide shots, place the person in a particular surrounding. When I'm looking at somebody, I want to know where they are. And a wide shot gives me information of where they are situated, what is around them. So that is, it's a good, shot to use. It also helps because you can show different points of view. Like, if when in the clip that you saw where the old woman is handling the seeds in the basket, when I show from over her shoulder, I show the basket, what her hands are doing with the grain. What you are seeing is basically her point of view. The camera is showing you her point of view. So you can vary the points of view by moving your camera's position. And you don't need a tripod. You can, with your movements, you can also move. Like you can pan, which is a horizontal movement, or you can tilt, which is a vertical movement. So I can go from just a close-up of her hands, feeling all the seeds in the basket, and I can slowly and steadily tilt up to her face. And now I have made a connection between the hands and who is the person behind those hands. So we can do a lot like that. And the more varied your shots are, the easier it is to edit them, because the editing then is very smooth. It is not jumpy. So it's good to think about these things, and especially when you're shooting something you have already seen before. If you've already seen a process before, you know what is going to happen, then it's very good to make a short list. Like just list what you want and how you want to shoot it. Or if you're good at drawing, you can do a little storyboard. Like you can actually draw the angles you want to shoot from. And also, even if it's just in your head, it's good to plan a little bit of how you want to show something. The next is the eye level shot, and this is a very important shot. She already mentions it in the clip that you saw. So it is different angles give you different effects, and the eye level shot is where you treat your subject as an equal. So you're not looking down on somebody. So when you're doing interviews, especially in an interview situation, it is good if your camera is at the eye level of the person that you are shooting, because then, you also as a viewer, you will tend to empathize with that person. You will be able to understand and feel what that person is saying when the shot is composed at the eye level. I'm going to show you a clip now from the film, because it is interesting how these women understand these different shots. Okay, sorry.
పటేల్ మీద ఉంటాడని మా కెమెరా మీద ఉన్నది ఇప్పుడు మీద ఉన్న దాని కొరకు మేము దీనికి పటేల్ చాట్ అని మేము అనుకుంటాం అన్నమాట.
పటేల్ మీద ఉంటాడు, గాయదాడు కింద ఉంటాడు కాబట్టి గాయదాని స్థలంలో మా కెమెరా ఉన్నది, దీనికి గాయదాని చాట్. సంఘంలా మేమందరం సమానం కూర్చుంటాం కాబట్టి ఈ చాటుకు మేము సంఘం చాట్ అంటాం.
So these women have, I'll just go back to this, these women have very well understood the different effects of the different angles. So when you shoot from a high angle looking down on the subject, what happens is that the subject looks inferior, the subject looks like a victim. And the opposite is the effect when you shoot from the low angle. If you're shooting with your camera looking up at your subject, then the subject tends to look very powerful, tends to look larger than life. You know, there's a reason why in Hindi movies, the villain is shot from a low angle. So unless you want these particular effects, if you're shooting an interview, it is better to shoot at the eye level. Okay. Now, another thing is that it's very tempting to, you know, always push the zoom button on our cameras. And but you should be a little careful with that, because it can increase the camera shake. And when you're shooting on your phone, it will also degrade the image quality, because the zoom on your phone cameras is a digital zoom and it is not an optical zoom. If you're using a DSLR camera, then it is an optical zoom. But on the phone camera, it is a digital zoom and it is poor image quality. And it also looks very clumsy when it is not edited out. So unless you're planning to edit it out, you know, try not to use the zoom button too much. You can move closer instead. So zoom in with your feet, just go closer to what you want to show. Now I come to the bit about composition. Now, how can we make our shots visually interesting? How can we make shots that are not boring? So, you know, we tend to always put the subject in the center of our frames. But is that the most interesting way to show our subjects? So in photography, in filmmaking, in visual design, there is something called the rule of thirds. Now, this says that the frame can be divided into 3 equal parts vertically and horizontally. And as a viewer, our eyes tend to naturally go along these lines, and we are looking for something of interest along these lines and at these points of intersection in order to rest our eyes. So in order to have a balanced composition, it is good to place the elements of your shot along these horizontal and vertical 1/3 lines, or along these points of intersection of these lines. Now, here is a picture of a tree. You know, when I look at a picture like this, I have no idea what it's about. Is it about the field? Is it about the tree? Is it about the sky? All 3 are trying to grab my attention. Here is the grid. And you can see that the horizon line is right in the center of the frame, and the tree is also right in the center. And there is nothing along these vertical lines or at these points of intersection. So it is not a balanced composition. We go to the next slide.
Yeah, excuse me.
Now here we have brought the horizon already to the lower third. And already now this is a better picture, because at least now I know that the picture is about the tree. And still it is not, I mean, it's a bit boring.
Excuse me,
Now
ma'am.
we have the tree on the left 1/3, and we have the horizon on the bottom third of the screen. This is now a very restful, very balanced picture. It is also much more interesting. And sorry, you can see that how perfectly the points of intersection are at the base and at the top of the tree. I want to just say one thing, that this grid is available on all your cameras, even on your phone camera. You just have to enable it in your phone settings. So it's good to have this grid when you're shooting a video, because it helps to compose, and it also helps you to keep your shot straight, so it's not crooked. Now, this is an image from the clip that you've already seen, and you can see how the hands that she's working with and her face are so well on around these points of intersection. This is also another one. This is a close-up shot. It's a 2-person shot, and it's really very nicely composed. You have the eyes, which is when somebody's talking, your attention tends to go to the eyes and to the mouth, and they are all perfectly along these lines. Now you come to a shot where there are many people. And what is the shot about? The shot is an interview situation. An interview is being shot. And so the two most important things of this shot are on the vertical lines. The person who's being interviewed is on one vertical, and the tripod and the camera is on the other vertical. And if you look, the eye of the person and the lens of the camera are perfectly on these points of intersection. So, as you shoot more and more, this becomes second nature to you on how to compose, so it just requires some bit of practice and thinking in the beginning, and then it really becomes second nature. Okay, now we come to lighting. And, even if you buy the most expensive camera in the market, it can never replicate the human eye. The human eye is much more sensitive to light than any lens, any camera lens. So when you enter a room, a dimly lit room, your eyes very quickly adjust to the light, and you are able to see everything. And then you think, also my camera will be able to see everything, but your camera can't see everything. Okay, so when you enter and you start, if you do a video in a dimly lit room or dimly lit even exterior, what will happen is that your image will become very grainy. It will become very noisy. It will not be sharp. And the other thing is that you will also see that the camera is trying to go in and out of focus, because it is finding very hard to find the focus. So avoid shooting in low light, get an additional source of light. And then another thing is avoid shooting, if you can, in the afternoon light outdoors, because this is really the worst light possible. It is very flat light. Creates very harsh shadows. So, filmmakers, photographers, we love the light that is, after sunrise and before sunset. That 1 hour is called the magic hour, because the light is the most beautiful. It makes objects look really luminous. So we love the early morning and evening hours. So try to shoot during those hours if you're shooting outdoors.
Excuse me, Farida, you just have a couple of minutes more. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and then avoid having a bright light in the frame, because your camera will try to compensate for that bright light, whether it's the sun or the bulb or the bright window, and it will tend to make everything quite dark. So avoid, trying to do that. And also, don't use the flash too much, because it's also very ugly. And try to, not have the subject standing in front of a very bright source of light. So if the light is coming from behind, it will be a silhouette, and it's not some effect that you want. And just for sound, try to control the sounds that you can control. When we come into a room, we just switch off the fans, the first thing, because, we are used to them. We don't notice them, but they are very noisy. Just, switch off the air conditioning, switch off television, switch off radios. So what you can control, you control. And the other stuff like traffic, you can't control. A construction site, you can't control. In that, it's better to use an external microphone, like a shotgun like this, or for interview situations, a lapel. And, just be steady, take your time, don't be hectic with your camera. There's a lot of time. If you want something for stability, use a tripod or a grip, use a bean bag. I made a bag, just put mung beans in it and seal it. And it's a very good support for, digital cameras. So you can also use the pillows, that you get in the airlines, the neck pillows, they also make a good support. You can also make your own contraptions. And the one I want to talk about a little bit is the power of editing. You can have a 3-hour workshop on this, but it's good to edit your material. It helps you to select and arrange your material. There's a lot of editing software available. You can, a lot of it is also free to download. Editing helps you to condense time. It helps you to take out stuff that is very repetitive that you don't need. It allows you to add sounds, music, narration. It allows you to overlap interviews. You can just have the audio of the interview play over images of other shots. And it helps you to make connections between actions, between people, and between places. And the last one is obvious, but often forgotten, often postponed. Please back up your material. It's very precious material. Back it up or back it up on a cloud, whether it's OneDrive or a Dropbox or whatever, or you use external hard drives. Video material tends to be very heavy. When I shoot a film, I have at least 2 safety copies, one that I leave at home and one that is stored somewhere else. So in case my house burns down, I still have another copy of my material. And in the end, I just want to leave you with a little song from the film, because I thought it would be a good end to this session on conservation and on seeds. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank